Okay, this is today's project that we're doing on this DVD. This is a paper mache box that I purchased at Hobby Lobby. It had a handle on it, which I removed and filled in the hole a little bit. I painted tulips. Well, first of all, the background is based in buttermilk. Now on the DVD, my prep work, I'm not doing any talking because I didn't think I was recording when I was recording, and vice versa. So the background is rolled on with a roller, and it's buttermilk. And then I came back and sponged on some cocoa and some light avocado with a damp sea sponge. And then when that dried, I stenciled on this clockwork stencil, which I just bought in the scrapbooking section at Walmart. But I stenciled it on with two colors. I did pebble, and I did a touch of soft black mixed in with that pebble, or you can just do straight pebble. And then I did our gold powders. And to mix this gold powder, it's just a metal powder. And to get it ready to use, you mix it with your varnish. And just use your palette knife and mix them together. And then I sponge them all on with a makeup sponge. Sponge this on the background. You'll see me doing this on the video, but I won't be talking, so I thought I better get the talking in at the very beginning so you know exactly what I'm doing. So I'm rolling on the background, I'm sponging on a couple of colors, and then I'm stenciling on this randomly all over the box and the lid. And then we'll go from there. Hope you enjoy this project. Filbert. I thin my paint down a little bit because it didn't flow very well on the other side. I know it's hard to see my pattern because I have all that stuff going on in the background, but it'll start popping here pretty quick. Yeah, I think I've got too much water. See that little ridge that I just made right there? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly take my finger over it and come towards the paint to get that little ridge off of there. Because I'm not sure what filmed at the beginning of this, this is just a paper mache wine bottle box that came from Hobby Lobby. This leaf goes over here. And it had a handle already in it, but I don't particularly like the handles that come on it. They are so stiff. So I took it off, and I normally keep wood filler at in my paint room, but I had given it to my husband to use for something out in his shop, and I think it may still be out in his shop. Anyway, so since I didn't have wood filler, where the holes were for the handles, because I knew I was going to be doing a different kind of background on this, I just went ahead and filled it in with some glue, some Mod Podge. I pushed on both sides and flattened it the best that I could. You can still see a little bit of it right there. And I just painted over it. Well, I didn't even transfer my tulip on this one. I'm going to have to get my pattern out and do that. Not sure how high that has to go up there. Not even sure how this is going to look when I get it done. Just I knew I wanted to paint tulips on something, and I wanted an old world kind of look on something, and I thought, well, maybe I could just combine the two. Okay, let me get the rest of my pattern on this side. Let's see. Now I just cut a couple of holes in my pattern, and then just use some Scotch tape to glue it down. Much better. Alright, let's get some second coats on here. Thin that paint down a little bit. It's drying underneath all my lights I have on in here. Now, if this is the first DVD that you've bought from me, I'm very excited, and I just want to say thank you. I'm just getting into the business of having my own website. I've been doing some of my own patterns for a while and drawing in my sketchbook and dreaming that someday I would have my own little painting business, but I just decided, I just turned 50 this year, and I decided you know what, it's time. I'm going to stop putting it off and just do what it is that I love to do and try and make the best business out of it that I can. So thank you for purchasing this DVD, and I hope you will continue to come back. My website is young, but I hope for it to grow. I love painting. It's my relaxing time. Oh, I stuck my finger in the paint on that side. I bet you've never done that. Okay, I'm going to do the dark first. Some water in my paint. I think it's easier if you can paint with a bigger brush and learn to get control over that bigger brush. Painting can become so much more relaxing. And painting should be relaxing. It should not be stressful at all. If you noticed right there, my base coating was not the best, but I don't worry about that too much because I know I'm going to come back and put another coat on that stem, and I'm going to clean up. I've got lots of shading and highlighting to do yet, so I don't tend to stress out about that kind of stuff. Paint just a little bit too thin. This mat that I have down on my table is just a non-stick oven mat, and I haven't found anything that sticks to it yet. I bought it at Bed Bath & Beyond, so if you have one of those in your town and have a coupon, you should go get one because they are very handy, very good to have. I was always covering my table with plastic and then constantly trying to clean that plastic, and the paint, once it sticks to it, did not want to come off. And it just was a lot of work. Well, the paint comes right off. I just spritz it with my bottle and get it wet, and it comes right off. It's the best thing ever. I've gotten that metallic paint on it with sealer, it comes off. I had some kind of industrial glue I was using the other day, and it came right off. I think they're like $19.99 at Bed Bath & Beyond, but I would think any place that sells household kitchen supplies would have one. Even Walmart. I've never checked at Walmart, but I would think that Walmart would have one. So that's some place for you to check. Okay, so I adjusted my camera a little bit, so I hope that's a better angle for you. So I'm just going to brush mix, and I want to show you how I do this. Oh, water's all coming off. Okay, so I just pick up a little bit of green, a little bit of soft black, and I just work it. Now I've got too much water in my brush, so I'm going to wipe. I'm going to lay it on my paper towel until all the excess water gets out, and then I can go back to here, and because my brush is dry now, it will soak up that water that I have too much of. So this is a bigger float, so I want the paint to go a little bit farther over on the brush. So you can see my float is wider here than normal. This is not a normal size float by any means. And so you see how soft it is on there. That's how soft it's going to be when I go to paint. So I want to start down here. I want to darken up this leaf. And I'm just walking it out. And then I'm going to get my mop brush, which I have several sizes of, and I'm just going to start in the water area, and I'm just barely tapping. I just want to soften that paint. Okay, and my brush left some little hairs in there, but when it's dry, they will just wipe right off. I like the white ones, the white mop brushes, because I can tell when they're dirty. Now, to clean your mop brush, you just go to a damp place on your paper towel and wipe it off. And then you go to a dry place on your paper towel and dry it off, and it's good to go. If you put your mop brush in water, you'll have to have another one that you can use because they take a little while to dry. Alright, talked my brush dry, so I'm going to get a little bit more paint here. I want to shade on this one. And walking that out. And I haven't quite determined where my light source is going to be yet. I'm thinking it's going to be coming straight at these tulips this direction. So we'll see how that works out. Okay, I want to darken this here. I think I need a little bit more green in there. It's too much soft black. That's better. Okay, and this place right here will be all dark. And this place back here will be all dark. Okay. So let's go beside this leaf here. Shade. My brush was a little dry there. I don't know if you could see that. So I took some of my water on the water edge and scooted it over there where my paint was, and then reblended it. You don't always have to go back and get more paint. If you've got enough water on your brush and you can get that paint to flowing. It out kind of very lightly. I'm just very lightly tapping that. Okay, I need to shade next to that stem. That's really going to make that stem right there stand out. Now over here on this, I want that to be a little bit more sharp on the edge. So I'm going to do that. This needs to be darker here. More water and more paint. I want this down here to be even darker yet. And when you get out of line there, you can always take the wet side of your brush and wipe that up real quick. Okay. I think I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to move on to the stems. Okay, we're going to start some shading on the stems, just a little bit. I'm going to go to my 6 curved flat. And let's see, I think I'm going to do some avocado. I already got that here on my palette. Oops, turned my brush around the wrong direction. paint over too far, so I have to keep cleaning my brush off. Pick up some little tiny water drops for this little brush. And let's see. We want to make these leaves look... Now this leaf comes off of this stem like this. So we're just going to go right up this side here. Go around the flower there. Because that flower lays on that just a little bit. I'm going to have to get a bigger brush. This one's not going to cover as big an area as I want it to. So I'm going to get a 10. I'll go back to that small one when I do the stems down here probably. We'll see. I might be able to stay with this one. This one's looking a little worn. I might have to replace this one soon. I want this area through here to be a little bit darker. Little hard line right there. I don't like that, so I just took the wet side of my brush and wet that and softened it back. Shade under here. Way outside the line there. Just going to bring that down. That stem. And I want some down here. This brush feels just a little worn when I brush with it. So I think I'm going to have to replace this one pretty soon. I just wear these brushes out. They're my favorites and I use them just about for everything. Okay, this one's going to be darker down here. Now, this leaf right here comes past this stem on this side. So I'm going to darken that up on that side. I think before I go much further on these, I'm going to get some olive green out. A little bit here first. Walk that down. Okay, let me take some of this olive green is what I've chosen to use on this, so we'll see how it looks. Now the center of this stem down here, oh man, got way out of line there. I'm just going to soften that back with the water edge of my brush. And I'm going to do the same up here. Lighten this up. This leaf is light right here. I'm going to have to use my small brush and shade on each side of that stem. Well, we'll just slowly build on this. I don't want too much of this color on this one. I'm going to put a little bit on it. too much. Okay, I think I'm going to go to the big leaves while those dry. And let's see. Light avocado, is that what I have on my palette here? I painted them in with avocado and shaded them with evergreen and soft black. So I'm going to use some light avocado here. And do some highlighting. They won't get too much highlighting. You may not be able to see it too much at first. Too much water. This sleeve right here is pretty much all, it's going to be all dark. So this big one here is the only one that's going to have any kind of other lighter color on it. So I'm just kind of walking that down in there. Soften it. I'm going to give it a little bit. Boy, that brush is looking ragged. I'm going to have to get a different one. Let me get my other one and see how well it's going to work. Okay, I'm going to go into this and darken that leaf a little bit more. I want that leaf to be dark. It is the darkest leaf. It's behind everything. So everywhere you see this leaf, it's going to be dark. So I am going to walk this out over the whole leaf. Just darken that whole leaf. It's still going to be darker on that edge, which is fine. Okay, that leaf definitely looks the darkest so far. Now I want to darken on this side of this one. I'm still using the soft black and the evergreen, pine green. What am I using? Evergreen. But I put a little bit more soft black in it this time. Okay, I'm just walking that up and softening it with that water side. Just going to tap that and soften it. Okay, a little bit here. And a little bit more here. Alright, I think I'm going to come back with a little bit more of the light avocado. And I think this time I'm going to add a little bit of Hauser light green, just a tiny bit into that brush. Not too much. But I want this to be just a little bit lighter. I'm just tap walking that down kind of into the center of that. I'm going to gently mop that. I want that little torn place on the edge there to stand out more. So I'm going to take some soft black on my 6 curved flat. I want to create this area. I want it to look torn out of there. Now this leaf had a little turn place on it. So how I'm going to create that is I'm going to pick up a little bit of avocado on this 6 flat. Maybe a tiny bit of Hauser. I don't want it very light, but I want to create a little folded place on this leaf. I'm using a dressmaker's pencil because this will come off with water or paint, and I want a little folded place on that leaf right there. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that. Okay. So can you see where I've drawn that on right there? Okay, so I want to highlight that fold on the top part of it. My brush has gotten dry from... And I'm going to start with just avocado because I don't want it to be too bright. Okay. And I'm going to go with a little bit of avocado, or light avocado, I guess. So I want to give that a little bit more depth on the underneath side of it, so I'm going to go into straight soft black, and then right along that. I'll shade that, and I think I'll go one more highlight on that top of that folded area. I'm going to go with Hauser light green. Hoping this is showing on camera pretty well because the camera's kind of over my shoulder and I can't really tell exactly what I'm doing. Now, this little piece of leaf right here goes with that leaf. So I'm going to take some soft black, and I am going to make that a much darker area right there. Soft black. Okay, so those are starting to look pretty good. Let's see, I want to darken this a little bit more up here. I am going to go with a bigger brush for one thing. I'm going to go with my 10 and I'm going to go into avocado. Okay, so up here, this needs to be darker up here. Do I have you on camera? Okay. Normally I have my artist buddy, but that was putting it up too high. And so I hope that I'm keeping you on camera and getting the right angles for you. Alright, there we go. So I'm just kind of walking that into that. Soften it down here. Let's see, where else? I'm going to go back to my small one. Because on the stems, I want to shade on each side to give the illusion that those stems are rounded. So I'm going to take some avocado and some pine, or evergreen. I keep calling it pine, but it's evergreen. And I'm going to go on each side of the stem, staying kind of up on my toe because it's sort of like lining, only because this brush has water, it's going to keep it soft instead of a hard line like lining it would. So I want to go do the other side. I'm going to do this one while that one dries up there. And I'm just brush mixing these. Okay, so this stem is on top of everything, so it's right here. Okay, let me do the other side of this one here. Trying to make sure I got you on camera and keeping my head out of the camera at the same time. Okay, these are tight floats that we're doing here. Up on the toe, keeping them tight. Let's see, I'm going to put a little bit more shading on these two leaves. I'm going to go with some avocado. Tiny, tiny bit of pine, or evergreen. I do not know why I keep calling that pine green. I suppose if you get pine green out, that's going to be fine, since that's the color I keep calling it. And then down here, that's the other part of that leaf right there. So I'm just going to darken that whole thing right there. Alright, sorry for that little bobble. My dog decided she wanted to come back here and be behind me. And I told her that was not going to work out, sweetheart. Okay, I'm going to take a round brush. And I want to make some streaking in these leaves. So I'm going to load some olive green. And wipe some of it off on my brush. And then I'm just going to brush that on there. Not too much on this one, or this one. Okay, I'm going to go one more time. And I think this time I'm going to add some buttermilk to it, because I want right here to be a little bit lighter. Okay, that's starting to create some, a little bit more depth in there. Okay. Right here, that leaf kind of folds up a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit of avocado on my 6 curved flat. And I want to create a little like bent area right there. So I'm doing a back-to-back float is all I'm doing right there. I'm going to deepen this a little bit right here. not. I haven't decided if I want to do some more detail on this leaf or not. It's kind of in the background, so I don't want it giving a lot of attention. So I think when I get my tulips painted in, I'll let it dictate to me what I need to do with that. Okay, I need to separate these down here a little bit more, so I'm going to use some evergreen and separate them a little bit more. Down here, oh, wrong side. And that little piece that is underneath there, I'm going to add a little bit of soft black to that. My paints are starting to dry out here. So right here, make sure that we can tell that that's the part of this that's coming out from underneath. It's this leaf. I'd like for that edge to be a little sharper. It's not quite as sharp as I would like it to be. There we go. A little bit more here. Here, I'm going to do a back-to-back. And a little darker where this comes up here. Pull some of that down in there. I think that fold needs one more. Keep putting the paint on the wrong side of my brush. Which is making it difficult for me to know which is the curved and which is the flat. Just a little bit. Soft black right here because I need it to look a little more rounded. Do it at that angle. Okay, we're going to a bigger brush. That's just too much work. I always say if you can get it done with a bigger brush, you're better off because you can work less hard. You work twice as hard with a small brush as you do with a big brush. hope I'm keeping you on camera. This is a little bit trickier without having my artist buddy or... This still needs to be darker here. I don't know what it is about that that needs to... I need to be able to tell that that is a leaf and not the stem. The stem is on top. So I think I'm going to drag a highlight down the center of the stem. Put you on camera here. With some buttermilk. Those are the lightest parts of everything. Okay. I'm going to leave those alone for a little bit and come back to them and see if they need anything more when I get the tulips in. So the tulips, let's see, I think, oh, what color was I planning on base coating these in? Calico red. Let's see what this color looks like. I haven't used this color very often. I don't know if I've used it. Apparently I've used it one time. It's not shook up well enough because the plastic was off of it, but this might be too transparent. We'll see what we can get with it. Okay. I've got an 8 flat here. Let's see how this is going to look on these tulips. That's very, very transparent. I like the color of it. I can get some really good shading on this color. I think it's going to take a few coats. Now if I was going for a watercolor effect on this, oh, that would be beautiful. But that wasn't the effect I was planning on going with, so. And I haven't decided what I want to do on the lid yet. I did one box like this where I glued a handle onto it. I'm not sure if that's something I want to do on this one or not. I haven't decided yet. Now instead of stenciling the background, you could always stamp it if you are a scrapbooker or a card maker and you have stamps. You could always, you have some nice like stamps for travel or postage or something like that. That would be beautiful on here. Can't talk on here as well. So yeah, I think I'm going to like that color a lot. That's first time I've really used that color on projects, so I'm excited about that. Alright, let me go ahead and get a second coat on here. Now I thin my coats down with water because I think even if it takes me a third coat, I'm okay with that because I want my coats to be smooth. And if you put the paint on too thick, you're going to have ridges and everything in your paint, and it just will not look nice. So I always put water in my paint, each coat. I rarely do any kind of coat unless it's the background coat. I don't generally thin that down, but I always thin my paint down. And I really, really hope I'm keeping you on camera. And I apologize if I'm getting off screen there. Okay, that's pretty wet, so I'm just removing that paint. And let that dry. Wow, I really like that color. I'm gonna take my little fan here, my little Walmart fan. That costs less than $2. Comes with batteries. The blades are foam, so you can't hurt yourself with them, or anybody else. Or if, like, my grandkids love to come and play with my fans, I've got about 5 of them hanging on a peg over here on my pegboard. Because when I go teach, I like to have a fan for my students. But they're always getting them and playing with them. They think that's the coolest thing. Okay, I think I'm going to have to put one more coat on there. It's not quite covering up my background. I mean, I'm okay with that showing through, but if it's something that you don't particularly like, it looks much darker on the camera than really me looking at it. But if that's something that you don't like, then undercoat your tulips first with like a gray sky. A light to medium gray is what you should use to undercoat red, because it will mean less coats of red, but the main reason is because it will give the red the true color that it is when you get it all painted on. Whereas if you use any other color, it may not be that true color of red. I learned that in my jobs of painting murals, that undercoating red with a gray is the best way to go. You want to get that true color of red. Okay, I'm not going to get that background covered up completely because this red is just too transparent. And red is a transparent color. It's not opaque like most colors are. Okay, so I'm going to get that dry, and then we're going to go start doing some shading and highlighting on these tulips. Alright, I'm ready to do some shading on my petals. Looking at my brushes, I want to see which one is less worn. Okay, I'm going to shade on the bottoms of them and come up a little bit. I'm going to shade with soft black. Dry my ferrule off here, it's got water on it. Soft black, and I want to blend a little bit of that red in with it. Okay, so this one here I'm going to shade. I'm going to try and shade each petal separate. How I've drawn them in here. So I'm going to go over here and shade a little bit on this one. Come back and shade the center one. I'm going to move over here to the other flower. Softening on that water edge there. this one. And this water. This one has a little opening right there. A wet brush. When you're painting on paper mache, if you get out of line, you got to get that off as quickly as possible because it's paper and it doesn't want to come off as well. Okay, this petal back here. Darker down in there, and then this one. I have to get my smaller brush for that. Goodness. I'm having a rough time with that little spot right there. Trying to keep the paint tight on that toe because it's such a small place right here. I still got out of line right there. Might have to use a liner on that. Alright, so while I've got this one, I'm just going to go ahead and find that petal right there. Okay, and down here, let's see. Go back to my bigger brush here for a minute. And I'm going to put some on this edge here. It's not going to be as dark as what I put down there on the bottom. I had too much paint on my brush, so I just went over and wiped it on my paper towel. Leave that shading for a minute. I want to do some highlights on here, and I've got coral blush. I don't know how that's gonna work, and I've got peony pink. I think peony pink is going to be too pink. Coral blush might be too orange, so I might brush mix the two together. See how that works. this edge here. Walking it over a little bit. I don't want it too far over. I want to keep that highlight mostly on that edge. This is also going to give me an idea of where else I need to put some shading on here. So I can already tell I need to put some more back behind that. Alright, let's go down here to this other one and add a little bit of highlight. And I'm just brush mixing Peony Pink and Coral Blush. I got that. I filled my whole brush with that. Okay, let me try that again. I don't know how I got that so far over on my brush. As this dries, to me it's not quite the highlight that I was going for. It's a little too chalky looking. So since I started with it, I'm going to go ahead and finish up with it. And come back and try with just the Peony Pink. I've gone to a little smaller brush here. Well, that makes it look more pink. Not sure that's the look I was going for. Slowly get me there. I'm using the smaller brush because I don't want it to, I want to keep it up there on the top. Here on these petals, the very tips of them will be highlighted. So I'm going to go in with some straight paint. Getting a little bit of light there. Oops. Goodness. Yeah, pink everywhere. Now, this is the kind of background that you can't really touch up. So I'm trying not to mess up the background too awful much. Okay, I want to deepen some shading on that one over there. I'm going to have to My dog is snoring like crazy. I don't know if you can hear that on the camera, but oh my gosh. She's a terrible snorer. I still want that a little bit darker right there. I'm gonna curved flat is starting to get a little worn there, my small one. So I'm going to see if I can do this with a flat brush. I'll make too terrible big mess. You can see I barely got any paint on my brush because I want that tight float. I think I'm going to streak up in this before I do any more highlight. Let's see which one of my brushes I want to use here. I think. I'll try my 10-0 liner first and see how that goes. I'm going to use some, excuse me, throat's really dry all of a sudden. I'm going to use the red, which is calico red, and some soft black. And get it on camera here. I'm just going to put some streaks up. Shape following. Okay, let's put some down here on this other one. I'm not a person who paints, who knows the detail of flowers very much, so I'm kind of just guessing at it, just winging it along, what appeals to me. So if I'm not doing it like any tulip that you've ever seen, you can adjust it and make it a better tulip. Okay, a little bit of light buttermilk. Let's see how that goes here. I'm going to stay with my flat brush since my curved flat is getting kind of worn out. I don't want to dig for a new one behind me. I want a really bright little highlight right on the edge of this. Soften it over just a little bit. Just patting it out. Hopefully you're on camera for that. Do the same here. I don't have near enough water in my brush. I don't usually float with a flat brush. And I probably will come back with some white. To really brighten that up. Okay, let's see. The excess water out of my brush here. I'm going to pick up some soft black, straight soft black. Still want this out here to be a little darker. Don't worry about that hair there, I'll get it when it dries. A little bit darker right here. Alright, let's do the same down here on this one, just straight soft black. Right here. Oh, let's see. I'm going with some straight white now. Ooh. Oh, that happened. I want that. I'm trying to get that bright spot where the sun is shining right on those. I think I'm going to come back and glaze over these with some red. The glaze is 90% water, 10% paint. I'm going to thin it out. Very thin. Mostly water. Not very much paint. Okay, you want the excess water out of your brush. You don't want to saturate it. Okay, I'm going to try and stay off of that highlight right there, but I'm going to go over this highlight. Because that highlight right there is the one that I want to be the boldest. to stand back and look at this here in a second. Ah. I'm just washing over with that pink that we originally base coated this with. Let me stand up and look at that and see what I think. Well, I think I'm going to go with that. I'm going to deepen on my stems here. Get some evergreen out. I've got my soft black out still. I'm going to brush mix some evergreen and soft black. Now I'm going to have to bring a little bit of the green up on the flower itself. But for now I want to just get this a little darker right here. Okay, now I'm going to take some of that evergreen. Oops, evergreen, not avocado. I might put a little avocado with it because evergreen tends to be a little transparent. And I want to pull some of that up into the flower here. I've just got it side loaded. I'm using my curved flat. Just pulling that up in there just a little bit. Put some of that green on there. Oh, not there. We don't want it there. Just kind of dabbing it. The water side is softening it. I think we'll have to go one more with just straight light avocado, I think is what I have here. I've done that every time now. Alright, a little bit more of the soft black and evergreen. Touch up under here. Take some of that and streak it down the stems. Okay, I think I'm going to put a vein down these big ones, especially this one right here. And I'm going to do evergreen and soft black. See if that shows up. And do it on this side as well. Just leave a little space in between the two. Bring them together at the tip there. This one's mostly soft black. Oops, too close there. Need a little bit more paint. I'm keeping you on camera here. I know I say that a lot, but this particular project is moving it quite frequently, and I'm not sure that I'm getting it back where you need to see it. Okay. Let's wide angle out there a little bit. I think that's looking pretty good. Again, I don't know what I'm going to do with the top of it yet. I've got to get them painted on the other side. And then, I don't know quite for sure what enhancement I want to do on this side, but I want to do something. So I have to think about that. Okay, let me go get the other side done. Okay, I've got both sides of the tulips done, and I also put a tulip on the top of the box. Kind of let the leaves come over the sides a little bit. I used this tulip pattern right here to put on the top of the box, so I just used a portion of that pattern. Now for the other two sides, we're going to do fine wine. So I'm going to do this side and show you how I did it. I'm going to take my T-square and I'm going to measure in about 1.25 inches, I think, on here. From each edge, 1.25 inches. Doesn't really matter where you put that line at, because you're going to use your T-square to draw that straight line. So then I'm just going to line up with my mark and draw my line. I'm going to come over here and line up with this mark. And draw my line. Okay. Now we're going to tape this off with just Scotch tape. Follow my line. Oops. I love using Scotch tape to tape off edges because it gives you such a clean edge. Bring that down a little bit more. Can't quite make my tape as long as the other one. So, make sure I get right on that line, not over it. Okay, I'm going to make sure that the outside that I have that's unpainted is pretty close to the same size. I don't want to these boxes can tend to not be as square. Okay. So to paint that in, we're going to use avocado, and let's see, what color did I use? I believe I used Hauser Light Green. And it's going to take 2 coats of this. And you can brush it on, you can sponge it on. Because I want it to be a little mottled looking, have 2 tones of color in it, I'm just going to use a makeup sponge. So I'm just going to, I've got both colors on my sponge. So I'm just going to start tapping this in here. I'm going to fill this whole area in, and it's going to take 2 coats. And on the second coat, I want to make sure that I can have a little bit of that texture of both colors. So I'm going to get this painted on and get it dry, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I've got my first coat on. As you can see, you can still see some of the gold peek through there. But once we put our second coat on there, that's going to pretty much cover that. So we won't have to worry about it. So I'm just going to sponge this second coat on. And you know what? Did I use... Yeah, I think I did. I was thinking through the other side I might have used evergreen, but... You can start to see some of that modeling I want in the background. A little bit of both colors. That's the place where I filled in. Or I didn't quite get it filled in good because I didn't have my wood filler, which would have worked so much better. I'm going to have to go to the store and get some more of that. Okay. Make sure I've got it covered good. Clear up to the edges. You don't want to play around and go over it too much because you could start pulling the paint off. Alright, so I'm just taking the tape off. Look how clean that line is. I'm pulling it towards my wet paint. Dry this real quick with my little portable fan here. We're going to put a gold band along each side of this, and I'm also going to put that gold band, I think, around the edge of the lid as well. So we'll tape all that off at one time. When we have the gold mixed, we'll just do it all at the same time. And one coat is normally going to be enough, but I think on the other side, because I really wanted that gold to stand out, I wanted it to stand out more than the gold we put in the background, I did 2 coats. Okay, so I'm going to start by taping off the lid, and I'm just going to eyeball it here, 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. Just keep your tape straight. I'm just going to go all the way around it. I think we'll get it. Just lining that piece of tape up on top of that other one. Make sure my width stays the same. Over so it stays out of the way. Okay, now I want to make sure that's dry. I'm going to eyeball about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch all the way down. Make sure that looks straight on that outside edge. Do it over here. Oops, and my tape stuck. The width through there is about the same. And I'm taping down on the edge to look about the same. Okay, now I'm going to tape off on the green. And this piece I can already tell I did not tear long enough. So I'm letting just a tiny, tiny bit of that green show through, because tiniest little bit. Because I want to make sure that those lines don't leave a gap for that background to show through. Alright, then we'll do the side. Now I want to mix my gold powder. And to do that, I'm going to take my gold powders. Zoom you in here a little bit. Okay, I'm going to put some gold powders. It's real metal powder. I'm going to put some out. Of course, I was talking, so it scattered everywhere, which it normally does not do that. And I'm going to take my matte varnish and put some out. And I'm just going to mix those together. Get all that blew around over there, over here. So you can see how shiny that is. It's awesome. awesome, awesome product. See how shiny that is on my paper towel? Good, good product. You're going to want to get some of it. I keep a Swiffer cloth here whenever I'm working with glitter and stuff. It cleans it right up. I'll do the same with that gold powder. Okay, so I'm just going to use my makeup sponge. That's still pretty pliable from when I used it earlier, so I don't need to cut it off. I'm just going to go along the edge here on this, all the way around. I'm just tapping it on. I might have to cut that. That's got a little sharp edge there that I don't like. So I'm going to clip this off real quick. I just took my scissors and cut it off and made a fresh, clean end. That had a little rough spot on it that I didn't like. Okay, so then I'm just going to tap this on. Do 2 coats. You don't have to do 2 coats. I like to do 2 coats because I like to make sure that I have covered every bit of that area that I have taped off. Okay, I'll set that over there and let that dry. And I'm going to go and do this. John camera here. I'm just tapping it on. Just like I did that green paint. When I come back with the second coat, I will probably just go like that. But I want to make sure I get it on here. Get my first good coverage on here. Just down both sides. We're also going to use this gold for the lettering. I did just do 1 coat on the lettering, I believe. This side, come back. Should be dry enough for me to put a second coat on it now. That gives such wonderful coverage. Okay, now I want to take the tape off and start over here. Just going to try and pull it towards my wet paint so that I don't. Just cannot get a cleaner line than that right there. That is just awesome. Alright, get the second coat on this. So I'm just going to go across it like this. Is erased there, so I have a little cleanup to do. Scotch tape does not usually raise up like that. Don't usually have to worry about anything getting underneath it. Okay. Go to this end. pull my tape. I'm just grabbing, well, I guess I'm going to grab 3 pieces. I normally just grab 2. Just pull it right off. See, you don't have to worry about it lifting your previous paint that you put on it. It stayed right on. Even though we're painting on paper mache box. Tape stuck all over me. Okay, so our lid's going to fit on here, like this. Okay, so my lettering is going to go down the center of this. So I'm going to get this lettering transferred on and mix some more gold up, and then we'll come back and finish this box up. Alright, we're going to work on our lettering now. And I'm going to use a number 1 round. I'm going to see, I can't remember if I used a 1 or a 4 on the other side, so I'm going to see how well the 1 does. So when you do lettering, it's much easier if you come towards you when you do your lettering. So I'm going to start over here, and because I have this turned on its side, hope I'm going to keep you in camera here. I'm going to start up here on the tip of my brush, and then I'm going to flatten it out and fill that space, then come back up on the tip and come around. And then here, I'm just going to go right over that line because I'm going to come back across there. I'm laying it flat, coming up on the tip. So I'm going to fill in here, flat brush, flat, coming up on the tip. Okay, and we're just going to do it that way with all of the lettering, and then we're going to do a drop shadow. With soft black. Now this is a big area here, so I'm going to lay my brush flat. Follow the shape and fill it in. Okay, now this end, I'm going to have to break it down into sections. So I want to come just filling in down here. Flattening my brush, coming up on the tip. I think a lot of people stress out about lettering, and if you just break it down into little strokes or little lines and don't look at it, the letter in the whole, it makes it a little bit easier. If you have the opportunity to take like a calligraphy class or something, that kind of helps in your mind know when you're doing a little bit fancier lettering like this, how it should go. So generally with lettering, you're staying up on the tip and then you're pushing, flattening your brush for the wider parts. quite trace this letter on as good as it should have been, so I'm going to adjust for that. Hopefully I'm going to adjust. That line there makes it look, it's a fat little eye. There's a little curve down here at the bottom. Flattening. Up on the tip here, more on the tip here, a little bit of flattening. I didn't draw that line very straight, but I want it to be somewhat straight. Last letter down here is, I don't really have a place to rest my hand, so I have to hold my finger against it to steady my hand so that I don't get too far out of the lines. Dry this real quick and erase my graphite lines, and then we'll do the drop shadow, and then we'll be done with this project. Alright, we're going to do our drop shadow to the left of each letter, and we're going to do that with soft black. So you can see how I did them on this side. So this one I'm going to do a little bit on the top. Let me get you on camera here. I'm going to come down this side of it. And here. Do a little bit here. Okay, same here. Just following the shape of that letter. You already got your letter painted on, so drop shadowing is just like outlining it, but you're only doing it on one side. Let's see. I did this E up here, I believe. And on that side. A bit more water in my brush. A little bit wider there than what I wanted. Oops. I really hope Hope you're on camera here. Working on the end down here. Got that a little thick there. Okay. I'm going to zoom out so you can see the complete finished box here. So we've got our fine wine.